I'm here at Samsung Australia's local media event for the launch of the Galaxy Z Flip5 and the Galaxy Z Fold5. Today, I got to go hands-on with everything that Samsung announced. Let's go. Welcome back to Tech with Benefits. This video is going to be huge. I just got back from Samsung Australia's media event where we got to go hands-on with everything that Samsung just announced. Let's get started with the Galaxy Watch6 and Watch6 Classic. The standard Watch 6 is replacing the Galaxy Watch5, the standard models. It's going to still come in a 40 and 44mm with thinner bezels around the frame to give it a bit more of a sleeker experience. The Watch 6 Classic is replacing the Watch 4 Classic, not the Watch 5 Pro. Classic fans have been very patient, me included. There are two new sizes with the Classic this year. They're going 43 and 47mm. And they have a titanium finish around the frame. They're borrowing materials from the Watch 5 Pro and implementing them on the Watch 6 Classic. What makes these stands out and is absolutely a thing to rejoice about is the rotating bezel is back. Yes. Samsung have not just brought it back, but they've actually reduced the size of it. So you're going to get a more fuller, richer display experience because the bezel is not intruding or physically in your way as much as it has been in the past. The display's also been improved where you have an impressive 2000 nits to support your outdoor brightness. Being a smartwatch, you're going to be looking at this thing outdoors a lot. So that makes a lot of sense. Kudos to Samsung. The thing that we got told heavily in our briefing is they are pushing health and fitness. What they're bringing into the Watch 6 line is the new constant heart rhythm monitoring. They had an acronym for it. I just can't remember off the top of my head what it is right now. But that is coming in, and they are also finally enabling the temperature sensor, which was introduced last year hardware-wise, but finally being turned on at the software end this year. In our briefing too, we got a lot of demonstrations regarding the sleep tracking features. What they've done is there's some algorithm improvements, but they've also brought a lot more of the results onto the watch itself. Whereas at the moment, you get a really basic watch sleep score experience, and you go to the phone to get more of context. You get all of that context on the watch as well, which is really neat. What I really enjoyed though was the personalized workouts that have been added into Samsung Health, which I think will make a big difference to a lot of people who don't just go with the standard that the watch comes with. They maybe build their own or they've got a personal trainer. You can build a custom workout progression and start that from your watch, and it will just progress into the different things that you're looking at doing. Really looking forward to that one. Some other things as well is you can set your maximum heart rate zone. So at the moment when you do running and cardio and any type of really tracking through the watch, it gives you the tracking of your heart rate zones, but they're fixed to your age. Whereas now you can either customize this yourself based off health advice you've given, or you can let the watch sort of determine what your maximum heart rate is based on your average through your exercise that you're doing, which I think is really nice. And again, just further contextualizes your workout and personalizes it to you. On the hardware front, there is bigger capacities compared to the watches they're replacing. The Watch 6 is getting bigger batteries than the Watch 5, and the Watch 6 Classic is getting bigger batteries than the Watch 4 Classic. However, the battery hero is still the Watch 5 Pro in Samsung's range. So if you're looking for endurance, that's probably still the one you want to get. However, there is new processors inside here. Samsung has updated the chipset, which could see some efficiency gains to go along with it. On the hardware front, I guess from accessories, the watches now get this really easy push button release to change the bands, which I'm very, very grateful for. I appreciated the standard pin connector, and I think they still will be running with that. They've just made the mechanism to release it a whole lot easier, so you can interchange between bands way better. Back to the software side, you can actually create folders on your apps page on your watch. So you can, similar to the way you're on the phone, drag and drop apps into a folder and have things way more organized and categorized, which is neat. And a little tiny thing I got really excited about was when you launch the camera on your phone, we got it demonstrated with the Flip 5, the watch face will show a little camera icon. So you can tap on it, and then you can actually then have a shortcut to using your watch as the viewfinder. Obviously that feature has existed, but now they've just added in that little shortcut onto the watch face. Clever. Now let's move on to the Tab S9 series. These range, the S9, the S9 Plus, and the S9 Ultra, is more about what's on the inside versus what's on the outside. If we were to take a look at just the outside, you wouldn't even really tell that there's been an upgrade here. The small difference in design, you can really only tell on the back of it, and it's really in the camera and the S Pen housing area. Other than that, from the face, they are physically identical. There is the same dimensions pretty much, and they feel the same in the hand too, which isn't a bad thing. To be honest, the Tab S8 Ultra, you can watch my review, it has held up exceptionally well a year and a half in. So I was really excited to see what improvements the Tab S9 Ultra in particular have made. A lot of it's internal. They now finally feature IP68 water resistance. That's probably been something I think the tablets they could have had it for years. I don't know if there's necessarily been an intentional need for it, but with the way people use tablets a lot more, they need to be a bit more rugged. So having IP68 on the Tab S9 series just makes a lot of sense. One of the hardware changes is the Tab S9 base model gets the upgrade to the Dynamic AMOLED 2X, which in my opinion is about 2 years overdue, but at least it's finally here. The other internals that were upgraded from a hardware perspective, you have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy, and we know what that did for the S23 series this year. So I'm just imagining with the Tab S9 Ultra with its massive battery, what efficiency and performance gains that's going to get. You also get 20% larger quad speakers. So that means the sound should output beefier noise for your audio and for your entertainment, which I'm looking forward to, as well as a new and improved vapor chamber cooling with the Tab S9 Ultra and the Tab S9 series in general. So it should keep it running better and more efficient for longer. On the software front, we got to see and hear about a couple of partnerships that Samsung are adding in. Samsung have partnered with LumaFusion. We heard about the LumaFusion integration with the Tab S8 and how it was available. Now they're actually including it out of the box with a free 1-year version of LumaFusion on Tab S9. That's exciting. And I've used LumaFusion. I also recommend, there's a YouTuber, Dalavon Digital. He did a really in-depth review on the Tab S7 at the time with LumaFusion running. So go give that a go. And obviously with the Tab S9, things will have improved exponentially. Where I think they've stepped up the Tab S9 series this year is accessories. The first thing I wanted to test was the keyboard cover because I wanted to keep the one I had, seeing as how I spent 499 Australian dollars on it, and use it with the new Tab S9 Ultra. Unfortunately, despite the keyboard covers looking identical, it does not work. I tested it, I popped it in, and it came up with a message saying this keyboard cover does not support this model. Disappointed. But accessories that are new, we actually have these two different types of screen covers. One of them is a privacy cover, whatever. The other one I was really interested in, it turned your tablet screen into like this matte finish and gave you this really like pencil to paper like feel. It replicated it really naturally, and it even gave like the scratchy noise that a pencil gives onto paper. Really liked it, as you can see here.
It scratches like paper as well.
The other thing we got told about but we didn't get to see was there's an S Pen Creators Edition. So it's an extra S Pen you can purchase, and what it comes with is extra tips in the box, but also you get additional software that gets enabled when the tablet recognizes this pen in use. It's designed for creatives because it gives you extra brushes, extra control, and just extra sort of stuff in your arsenal to create sort of more fascinating content. But the S Pen that comes in the box, which is still included, is now bidirectional charging. Before, you had to clip it a certain way. Now, it doesn't matter which way you attach it on the back, it'll charge, which I think is something that probably should have been there from the start. Let me know if you're going to get a Tab S9 in the comments, or if you think I should pick one up and maybe do a comparison with the Tab S8. Let me know. Right, we're getting into the crux of it now, the Flip 5. In the past, haven't been as excited for flips as I have been about Fold. But as the flip is advancing, I'm getting more and more interested in the concept of what the flip can do. This year, it takes a giant step forward with the addition of that massive cover screen. But before we sort of cover what that display does, let's take a look at the other parts of the design that have also changed. The first thing that you notice, aside from the screen, is now it closes completely flat. Hallelujah! Finally, we have a completely folding flat display with the Z Flip 5. You can see here on the screen now, compared to every generation before it, that the gap has just either stayed the same or maybe even got slightly bigger. And then from Flip 4 to Flip 5, there is no comparison. It is completely flat. And what this also does is shave 2mm of thickness off the device when it's closed. So it's actually going to be more compact to hold in your hand, in your bag, and in your pocket when you are carrying it around. Now, obviously, I hinted to it, the display on the front is much bigger. They're not calling it the cover display anymore, they're calling it the flex window, which I like. It's much larger than anything that's come before it. It is 3.4 inches compared to 1.9 from the year before, and compared to 1.1, which is where we started with the original Galaxy Flip. Quite impressive to see where we've come in 3 short years. Who knows where we'll be in another 3. With this bigger display, it now gives you way more information that you can view and control and interact with from the front. You can scroll through all the different widgets and screens that you can enable. A simple pinch out will actually make it easy to jump to the one that you're looking for. If you want to customize the flex window, you just have to long press and then you can see all the different customization options. There's different widgets you can add. Really neat way you can change the wallpapers. I really liked that interaction and how that worked. Also, being a much bigger screen, in the past with this cover display, you haven't been able to respond to messages with a keyboard. They brought in the option to use your voice to respond to texts and answer the phone and everything. Now you get a full-size keyboard, finally, which means there's less steps now to responding to a quick interaction that you need to on your phone. You can leave it closed. The customization and personalization options are also really impressive. Samsung really talked about personalization in the briefing. We got a really long introduction, which was thorough and detailed, about how customers are looking for personalization and identifying that with their smartphone and the accessories in particular. So the accessories that we got to see with the Flip were vast. There was one that really stood out to me. It was called Flex Suit or Flip Suit. It definitely had the word suit in it. What it does is, using a plastic rear case cover, whatever you want to call it, they have these little NFC cards that are colored and have designs on them. And when you slot those cards into the back of the case and pop it onto the back of the phone, it will instantly, using NFC, theme your cover screen to match it. You can see here with the blue one that we got demonstrated, pop it on, and immediately that cover screen changes to the same sort of pattern. We've been told there are some third-party ones sort of coming. I really hope it'll be open for people like me. Imagine if I make one with my logo on it and I theme that out. That'd be neat. The other big aspect that I'm going to cover here is the cameras. In relation to this flex window, you obviously get the bigger preview of your photo, but it also means you can have more control over the types of photos you can shoot. You have only really 3 photo modes still. You got the video, you have standard photo, and you have portrait. Previously though, that was it. But within portrait now, you can control the different background effects and get a live preview of them. Whereas before, you had to go into the phone to do that. Within photo mode, you obviously still have the option to change the ratio of the photos. You get, rather than it filling the cover screen and taking a 1:1, you can change it to your more native 3:4. Previously, you only had the option to go 0.5 or 1 times. Now you can pinch to zoom between any zoom range on the back of the Flip when it's closed or when it's in that flex state. So just giving you more options. The other part too is you have a preview as well. So if you quickly wanted to check the photo before you move on, you can do that from the front and delete it if you don't like it. In terms of the cameras themselves, the numbers are still the same. Still a 12 megapixel ultra wide, still a 12 megapixel main wide angle. Samsung did say that the sensors behind have actually got an upgrade to be the same sensors as the S23. Doesn't mean that the resolution is matched, but the technology behind the sensor is the same. So we'll see how that plays out when I get a Flip 5 in my hands. To match that though, it also has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy. We saw what that did for the S23. I'm sure it'll lift the Flip 5 as well. Okay, let's get into the Fold. I've been a Fold advocate since the beginning. Now we're here with the Fold 5, and we're at the mainstream point where it is such an accepted device now. It's slowly iterating along to really progress the Fold series globally, on a global scale. I'll say that again, globally. The Fold isn't just available in different markets here or there, it is everywhere. I definitely plan to make a full in-depth impressions video on the Fold, and I do have a Fold 5 coming as well. But let's just get into my early thoughts and some of the things I noticed that is brand new with the Fold 5. We got some really impressive software demos. Like, I was blown away with some of the multitasking capabilities that I saw. Before we get into any of that though, let's look at the hardware. Because obviously, like the Flip 5, there is some design changes which changed the in-hand feel of the phone itself. The very first thing that I noticed was how light it felt.
God, it actually feels really light in the hands.
As you heard just then. It's 253 grams, which is 10 grams lighter than the Fold 4 from last year, roughly, and only 13 grams heavier than a standard 14 Pro Max, which is just the phone doesn't fold at all. Now, I know that there are lighter folds in existence. I'm very much aware that that is out there. But what you can't deny is that Samsung make a very complete package for the Fold. It's not just about the hardware, it's also about the experience you get when you use it and how it formulates part of an ecosystem within itself and with other products. In terms of the cover screen, there is no change in size, which is fine. I honestly prefer the foldables to have a narrower cover screen because one-handed use with a phone that's like double stacked almost should be enabled. You should be able to hold this thing and reach across the display with one hand. With this reduction in weight, it's also matched with a reduction in thickness. When it's closed, it is 2.4 millimeters thinner at its thickest point from last year's Fold 4. And that is because it is completely flat when closed. Again, we had the older Folds here for comparison. So the Fold 1 compared to Fold 5, Fold 2, Fold 3, and Fold 4, it seems like they didn't really make much of an impact or an improvement from Fold 2 to 4. But from 4 to 5, it is shut. There is absolutely no chance you're seeing down the barrel of that thing. It is wired shut. You're not buying a Fold really to use it closed. Let's be realistic. You're buying this to unfold it, and then inside is where the magic happens. Just from the display itself, Samsung have improved the peak brightness to match the S23 series. So you've got 1200 in high brightness mode and 1750 in peak brightness. So it's going to match what you can get on the S23 Ultra flagship and the S23 series in general, but on a folding screen, which is super impressive. Now, whilst there isn't a bigger battery inside the Fold 5 compared to Fold 4, it's the same 4400 milliamp hour cell, or cells, because there's two. You do get the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy. Now, when we saw what that did to the S23 Ultra, we should be really excited about what this can do to the Fold. Because most of the time you're going to be using that cover screen, which won't draw as much power as the 6.8-inch S23 Ultra screen. So there should be some even results between the two, but I'll let you know my usage when I get my Fold 5. Okay, that's the hardware stuff out of the way. The software is really what makes the Fold 5 the Fold 5. Last year with the Fold 4, Samsung brought in the taskbar. I love the taskbar. I wish it was on other phones. But on the Fold 5, they've just made some more customization with the taskbar, where instead of just 2 recent apps, which I honestly found quite limiting, because with the amount of apps people use, and I use in particular, I would have liked to jump to more a lot quicker. And you can now add in the display settings, 2, 3, or 4 down the bottom. So you have the choice now, up to 4 different recent apps that can be spaced there down the bottom. But where I really got impressed was the 2-finger multitasking gestures that have been included. Now, I'm not talking about the 2-finger swipe to activate multi-window. No. I am talking about the fact that you can hold down something with one finger and perform an action with the other. For example, if you're in the gallery and you wanted to drag a photo somewhere, messages, notes, for example, you can hold down the photo with one finger and with the second finger, open the app that you want from the taskbar. And then, with the other finger still on the photo, drag it into position and drop it where you want it to be. The other one that we got shown that I really liked too was the customization when it came to this. If you want to rearrange your home screens, previously you had to long press on the app and then drag it to the edge and hope that the phone would change pages. Now, you simply just drag onto the app and then swipe with the other finger and then drop it on the page that you want. I'm sure there is some more that will be enabled by this, but those were the ones that really stuck with me. The other thing I really enjoyed too was, let's say, relating to the taskbar, I guess you could call it, is let's say you drag an app into a pop-up window and you're done with it, but you maybe want to just keep it to the side in case you want to use it again. Flick it over to the side and it'll have like a little tab sitting there for when you're ready to drag it back out and use it again. It's not intrusive. It's still there and in your eye, so if you need it, you know where it is, and you just simply have to bring it back when you need it. But the one I am most impressed by is the new Flex Mode panel. It's a refinement on the Flex Mode panel that came out last year. The Flex Mode panel was basically Samsung's way of saying to apps that didn't want to adapt to the foldable form factor, we'll just do it for you. And they did. But they only enabled it for apps that didn't already support Flex Mode. So for YouTube, for example, you had to use YouTube's version of Flex Mode. This year, Samsung is enabling Flex Mode and allowing you to use it everywhere a lot easier. When you do pop the fold into Flex Mode, the little icon will come up down the bottom and you tap on it and it will bring up the Flex Mode panel. And you can see it's completely redesigned to what it would look like last year with the launch of the Fold 4. Aside from the usual controls that on the left-hand side, there are some new touchpad controls, which I really liked. Depending on how many fingers you interact with, whether it be 2, 3, or 4, will be depending on the different actions that take place. So as long as you remember the different taps that you need to interact with, you'll be able to perform the actions that you're looking for. Now, there is a ton more with the Fold 5 that I can speak about right now, but I am going to do a full video. So make sure you subscribe at the bottom there because there's a lot more coming. And especially when I get my Fold 5, plenty of content coming your way. From an accessory standpoint, there was one case that I was excited by. That was the S Pen case. Last year's Fold 4 S Pen case and even the Fold 3 one, which was an abomination. Last year's one, they made it better, but there was like this hump on the back of the phone. And whilst it was better than the solution from the year before, it just wasn't there. This year's one is basically them creating the internal S Pen, but just on a slim case on the back because it has the little pop out mechanism. It's like the form factor of the S Pen from the S23 Ultra in that it's flat and sort of and narrow. And then you just clip it back in when you're done. And it doesn't really add any bulk to the back of the phone. And it has really good camera protection. If you're after the S Pen, you get this case with the S Pen. And it is fantastic. You'll really enjoy it. On the subject of both folds, in terms of durability, they both have this new hinge. Samsung still say it's IPX8 water resistance. They didn't get the rating, or at least there is no rating that they told us about for the dust. That isn't to say the hinge hasn't been redesigned and maybe is more impressive when it comes to dust control versus the Fold 4 and Flip 4, but there is no official dust rating, so just be wary of that. The rest of the materials, they have Victus 2 glass front and back, ultra thin glass on the inside, which is pretty much stock standard for Samsung's foldable range at the moment. And that's it. That's everything that Samsung announced at Unpacked that I got to go hands-on with. So I hope you appreciate that. Make sure you subscribe because, like I said, plenty more coming. You will not want to miss anything, especially if you get a Fold 5 for yourself. This will be the place to be to learn everything you can about your new folding phone. Thanks very much. Like this video, of course, and comment below if you got all the way to the end. I like to hear what your thoughts are of everything Samsung announced. And between now and my next video, come hang out with me on Twitter and Instagram, which you see below. And I'll see you next time. Yo!